Hey, truth is, nobody really gives recognition to a good manager, but everybody notices a bad one. Like when you're not very good at your job, like everybody knows. We're going to talk today about the 5 crucial things to pay attention to as a leader when it's your first time leading. And if you do this right, we're going to be able to walk through today how to learn how to lead people properly. Because that's a big thing. Like how do we get them to go where we want to go, even if we've never done it before? And, you know, some people in some aspects have led someone or some group of people in their life. They may not have done it properly, but maybe you're in an area where you have in the past, but not in what you're going into. So we're going to think about unpacking how to lead. And I've done it a bunch of different ways, man. I've been able to get to a point where I have led multiple companies, multiple people. I've had direct staff. I've had myself as a direct staff, a bunch of different individuals. So I've gone through it. And also one of my executive clients that I coach took over a $2 billion business within his company. I won't say what company. And in this, he turned it around. And the crazy thing is he did it in a way that not many other people would, because he, in my opinion, is a great leader. Like he understands how to get things done, how to get people to get things done. He did this all with one business while running another $250 million business at one point. So he had simultaneous things going. And so we talk about a lot of things I'm going to share with you today. He's obviously not a first-time leader, but I think first-time leaders need information from really serious and experienced leaders. We're going to bring that stuff to you now. So as you go through this, pay attention to these different tips. There's 5 of them. As I break them down, see yourself in them. Now, maybe you are not brand new, and that's okay. I think that sometimes we can kind of get a refresher, right? We can get a chance to look back at some things we could have done differently, could have done better. And in doing so, you'll be able to manage yourself even better going forward, and then manage your people, manage success. And when you do it right, it's good. Now, step number 1 is you really have to set the tone with the first impression. If you don't do this right, people are going to walk all over you and you'll have no idea how or why. Just recently, I took over being a coach for a group of people. And in this group of people, when I came in, here's what most people do. And you may not even notice they do this, but they do. What they'll actually do is they'll step in and they challenge you. They try to see what they can get away with. They make certain statements. They try certain things. They'll put their phone in their hand because they may not actually consciously know it. Sometimes they do, but they're testing to see how you'll respond. Do you have backbone? What your standards are? What you'll hold a level for? Now, the interesting thing is if you already have a level of what's unacceptable, when you get into this space, there's a couple ways you can handle it. But to be quite honest, you must set the tone. You have to let them know what you will and won't let them get away with, what's going to be okay and not okay. Because what's hard is let's extrapolate this if you don't have a good first impression or set the tone in the beginning. Someone comes in, they do something that you're not okay with, but you don't say anything. You don't lead because, well, you're new and you don't want to ruffle feathers. You don't want to make anybody mad at you. You want people to like you. So what you do is you don't say anything. You let it slide. Well, then it happens again and again, and eventually it just keeps happening. And then what happens is now later on, you get to a point where maybe you feel more comfortable. You're a little more kind of engaged in the group. And then at this point, you now feel emboldened enough to go in and say something. And what do? They fire back. I've been doing this since day one. I've always done this, right? Now you're in this altercation. And then what you do is usually you go, yeah, in my head, I go, I should have said something. So I didn't. And you secede. And then they feel like they won. Or you make them stop doing it. And they get mad at you. And now you have someone to cancer in a group. Someone that's a problem because, well, they used to let me do it. Now they don't let me do it. And they go in pity party with the rest of the people on the team. And all of a sudden you lose control of the team, right? What could you have done to avoid this? Set the tone early. Hey, we don't do that here. Because there's a group that I work with. I came in and there were some people on the phones doing some things. I had to let them know who I was. Not that I'm rude or disrespectful, but who's who I am, what I'll accept, what I won't accept. I'll banter back and forth. I'll be jokey, but at some point, just for a split second, I'll hold and go, no, I'm serious about this. Hold, and then move on. And they'll get it like, oh, he's serious. That could be the end of the conversation there. They get that you're serious. We lock it in place. We're good. But you can do it respectfully without getting demeaning or angry or cussing at somebody. You can say, no, I'm serious. This is not what we're going to be doing. Hold your ground. It's like that. Stop. Stare at them in their eyes. Oh, okay. And they'll understand. Now we set the tone. Now they get that they can get some guidance from you, that they should respect you. They understand that you're going to put your foot down when necessary. And now this thing you don't want them doing, they're not going to do long term. The hardest thing is to redirect a ship when you've already let it coast off in a certain direction. Keep the ship straight from the get-go. So make sure that you come in and you start having this conversation, set the tone. The impression that's the first one they get from you matters in the long term, because it means the difference between having to do extra work later on, which is more work, or do a little bit of uncomfortable work right now. So you can go less in immediate or more in long term. And I'm promising you in the long run, you are going to want this less in immediate effort and energy put into something that's a little bit awkward and confrontational than having to deal with redirecting a ship later on because you let somebody run away with their desire to do something for way too long. So make sure you set that tone. second point is clarify exactly where the ship is heading and why. Now, if you step into a situation and you have a group you're leading, the most paramount thing is then to be clear on where the ship is going. Because here's why. If people are unclear on where the ship is going, well, then what happens is they'll try their way to get to the destination that they think loosely is where we're trying to go. But if there's no clarity, it's actually okay for them because they're trying to do the best they can based on a lack of clarity. And then what you find is you have 5 different people chugging along in 5 different directions because the end destination wasn't clear as the leader. So you've got to be able to clarify exactly what we're trying to do, what we want to accomplish. What will it look like when I know I've crossed the finish line? That's the one. Most people have lofty ideas. We got to improve our sales. We have to grow the team. We have to increase team morale. What does that even mean? I don't even know what that means. Like, the idea is you got to have an idea of what it means, clearly what it means, so where somebody could explain it to somebody else outside the team and them go, I get it. Makes sense. I can see with my own eyes. I understand what it is. It's not loose. It's not gray. I get where we're going. And so in that moment of having people get it, now we have all people pulling in the same direction, not away from each other. And the big piece of that is why. See, if people understand why they're doing something, they're more apt to do it. Sometimes the why could be we need to make more money. Sometimes the why could be to keep your job. Sometimes the why could be to make impact. Sometimes the why could be to entertain. I don't know. There's a lot of different reasons why we are doing this thing. But your job as a leader is to not just clarify what we're doing, but why we're doing it. So we can all anchor to that thing, because along this journey, you will find that people get tired. No matter what it is as a leader, people along the journey are going to get tired. And your job is to make sure they understand why they are on this ship. If they're all pulling in the right direction because we know where we're going, only thing that can happen is somebody decides to give up on the journey. They decide to stop halfway there. They give minimal effort, or they slow the team down because they don't really have a drive to go. But if they understand we're doing this because if we don't do this, people don't drink water in this country. Well, you know what? I'm flight doing it, but I got to get it done. I know what the team's going to. I know what the team's going through. I know why we're doing it. Let's get to work. Simplest examples like a sports team. A sports team is trying to win championships. They understand clearly what they are working towards. But maybe there's a different, deeper seated reason why. Maybe it's this one of the veteran players last year. We're trying to win this championship for the veteran player, right? Or maybe we're trying to go out here and do this thing because, well, if we don't get this job done this year, we win some games, we're going to lose our coach. He's going to get fired, right? It could be a multitude of things, but when we know why we're doing it, even if it's just to win a championship for the first one for our area, it doesn't matter what it is. When you've got to that point of having clarity of where you're going and your team knows why, people get on board and they pull, they push, they support, they celebrate, they become internal, they drive. It's a big, big piece of it. Now, point number 3, when you're going to be a new leader, you got to make sure you let the people create the culture and then also create within the culture. If that makes sense. We're going to talk about this. I've always loved this statement that goes, people protect what they create. I think it's true, man. Like if I make something, I create something, I'm protecting that. Like if I built that doghouse outside, even if it's got some rickety stuff, the paint's bad, like it's a good paint. That's a good paint job. I did it, right? You have this mentality around it. But I realize that if we're going to have a group of people that pull, I mean, they've got to be bought in. And to do that, they have to create the culture and create within the culture. You must let them do it, which means first side, the creating the culture. When people are part of the conversation that goes into what we do, why we do it, where we're going, when they're part of it, when they're brought into the development of it all, they in fact buy in differently. Years ago, I consulted for a company where I was coming in, presenting a new program to a group. And the group that I was presenting to, there was, 5,000 different employees, and these different individuals were in different pockets, but each place that I went to, each, we'll call it location, each had a veteran or a group of veterans. And this thing I was putting in, wasn't ideal at face value for the veterans. But I knew how these kind of groups work. So I go, all right, I know that there's always like a good old boy feeling in this place. So we got to get the veterans to buy in to this idea. Well, how do I do that? And I go, well, I need the veterans and the young guys to do it. Well, the young guys follow the veterans. Let's get the veterans on board. How do we get the veterans on board? What if we go meet with the veterans, have a conversation, let them give us insight about how they want this design created, what it'll look like, what will be best for them. Let them help lead it. They'll have some ownership. And then sure enough, what they'll end up doing is, well, they'll be the ones that help us put it out and actually get the buy-in from the young guys because they created it. They'll protect what they created. So I did that. I went to 127 locations and we did this. And it rolled out smooth because I said, let me get the guy who may not be on paper the leader, but we know the leader in the group. Found the guy, got him bought in, had conversations. Next thing you know, he's out there pushing it. Hey guys, get in here, pay attention to this guy. He's got some good stuff to talk about. So now I'm bought in. Now they were all kind of flowing because I let them create the culture. And then I also let them create within the culture. See, what happens is there are going to be ideas that come up that are not your own, that are part of the group, that come from the group. And in those moments in time, you can't be the one that says, oh, no, only my ideas. No, you can help me create from my idea, right? But then if you get an idea, just ride with it. because they're close to the flow. Now you can support them in what they do. And interesting, there's reciprocation. If you support them, they'll support you and vice versa. So you actually have to create the culture with them and let them create within the culture. Then what happens leadership wise, it spans out. You're still head of the snake. You allow certain things to take place, but you get this buy-in where people flow, and they love having a good leader. People love having a good manager. They obviously don't always tell you, hey, you're the greatest manager in the world, but them celebrating, sticking by you, showing up, like that's sometimes what it is. Just them going, I love being on this team. I love being part of this group. That's also a compliment to you of creating a group they love being part of. But you got to let them create and create within that group. Number 4 is you must communicate and create rhythm. This is paramount to this whole thing. Communication is key. Not just the good stuff, the bad stuff, the stuff that's not so good. People aren't doing that well, but how you communicate's big. When I have something that's great, I communicate positively. Hey, Rick, phenomenal job. Hey, Shirley, you did well over there. So good. Hey, everybody give them a round of applause. And they get celebration, right? That's great. But you must also communicate poor stuff that's not going well, but not in that manner. People need to be publicly recognized, but privately criticized. There's certain settings where, like, football team, they're going to let you know, like, hey, man, you're running slow. You missed that block, Bob. Like, all right, I'm on it. Like that happens. But in settings where majority of people are interacting, when we're adults, we don't want to hear that. We don't want to be cast out from our group and ostracized. We want to be criticized privately and respectively. So communication is big. So I'm going to create a moment in space and time to give praise. Set that rhythm. I'll get to rhythm in a second, but set the rhythm of praise. Hey, today this person's person of the week is a rhythm of praise. Let people know it's coming. They can work towards that. It's a carrot for them, right? They want to build. But then when it's criticizing, you make sure you go privately to somebody, maybe not in regular scheduled time, but let them know, like, hey, I see you doing well here, but I'm seeing a drop off over here. And what I've noticed is you're doing this, this, and this subpar. And maybe I got to help you. Maybe I can, help you guys, but I need you to be able to step it up here. Let them know, but you got to communicate, because you can't go ahead and think they're mind readers and they know what you're thinking. They don't. So you can't create resentment or get mad at somebody for not improving somewhere if you're not giving them insights on how to improve in the area. So go give them that criticizing language. Go tell them what they need to work on. The constructive criticism as a leader, that's your job, to get them to do what needs to be done for the collective. So you must step in and do that, but publicly praise them so don't feel only the attacks by you. And they also realize that they can go into something and struggle at it, but not have to fear you being mad and feeling like also an outcast from their community and their group. On top of this, you must create a rhythm. It's all tied together, right? The idea is if I have a communication pattern, it should be a rhythm to how I communicate, but also a rhythm to how we work. Every single group and organization should have a rhythm. 100% should have a rhythm. When I played football, I go to this a lot because it's where I learned so much of life. We used to have a rhythm. We knew what Monday looked like, Tuesday looked like, Wednesday looked like, Thursday looked like. I had a flow of it. I knew what weight room stuff looked like. Here's where we get it warmed up. Here's our sheets. We do our workout. We put the sheet back, take a shower. We got film. Like, we knew that rhythm. It could be a rhythm to how pregame works. It's going to be, this group goes out, then that group goes out, then the kickers and the punters and the whole team, we go back, then the quarterbacks go out. Then, there's a rhythm. So what happens when you have a rhythm, you can actually allow people to show up as their best selves without having to think about, am I doing the right thing? Today is this, tomorrow's that, tomorrow's that. Like, we just lay it all out. So I know, like, what's today, Monday? Oh, cool, I got this today. Let's dive in. And you can create a rhythm for your team of structure of what gets done, when it gets done, as best you can. Now, obviously, some careers have things that they happen. Beautiful. What's your response rhythm? What's your chaos rhythm? You don't have to wing everything. There's a way to be able to go into spaces and actually have some control. And if you have some of that control, you create a rhythm that allows people to feel comfortable in the flow, and they get more positives. They don't get as many negatives. They get success. You engage, you grow, and now that rhythm that you created for your team is big, but I'm talking genuinely set a rhythm for what they're doing, when they're doing as best that you can. It can't just be a weekly meeting. Like, you have to have something in place, but certain things, certain days, when you create a rhythm, it creates a confidence in people because their brain knows what's coming. Our brains are predictive tools. They enjoy and like to know what's coming next. And that preparation for it, for some reason, is great. It's why we stew on things that I don't know what's going on. I got anxiety. What if this goes? Because we don't know. But when we know, we feel calm. It wants to know. Give their brains the knowing. The fifth part about this, you must care more than you criticize. Yes, care more than you criticize. There were a lot of people as leaders who are not supposed to be leaders, man, or they're not trained up just yet. And there's something to that. When you are a leader that all you do is point out the wrong stuff, it really feels like you don't care. And maybe you do care, but not about the person. And if you don't care about the person, they're not going to care about you or doing the job. And eventually they're going to go split and part in ways. Your criticism can sometimes come off in ways you don't realize. There's a great statement by Stephen Covey. He says, treat everyone the same by treating everyone differently. Now, when you criticize, sometimes you do it the way that you just normally do it. You just throw things out. You may say things that are rude. And most of leadership is kind of telling people, hey, you're not doing this that great. There's praise, right? But most of our leadership sometimes like doing this wrong, fix this, improve this. Our job's to get them to go better in a better direction and keep them out of bad patterns. But my kids, that's what I'm doing all day, is parenting, right? But the idea is you have to make sure you guide people in a positive direction, but you must care. And if you care more than you criticize, you will criticize with care, which means you will find ways to say things that make it feel to a person like they matter to you, like you care about them. Because odds are they probably do. They're probably people that you care about, that you love, and you got to make sure that when you're communicating with them, you care. You come from a place of caring about their humanity, what they've done, who they are, how they show up, and people feel that. They'll feel it. You and I both know there's a way you can feel that. It's not always just something that you say and they get it. You're feeling it. And when you feel this natural flow of this energy, like that's the thinnest and most powerful point of it. Like it's not really going in and just having this, we got to do this hard nose. No, it's caring a little bit. And the tempo, the tone, even the time frames at which you actually communicate. Is it every day you're giving me some bad news and I'm getting gun shy at seeing you walk in the door? Like these little things, when you care and you think about caring about somebody, you will naturally find a way to tell them what they need to hear without it coming off so abrasive. And when you can do that, people are going to be more receptive to what you have to say as their manager and as a first-time leader. That's it. These 5 things, if you can weave them into how you operate, whether it's your first time being in leadership or you've been doing it for a while, it'll be game changers for how you get people to buy in to proceed to the next stage with you. So make sure you apply these things. And also go check out this video here. I've spent some time dialing in to make sure that what I teach you is powerful. And this is a powerful one here. You do not want to miss this video. Go check it out. That's it. As always, make sure you do the dark work to make shift happen.